Before we jump into the episode, I just wanted to jump in here and let you know that we will be taking a little bit of a break. We will have one holiday special to round out the year, but we forgot to take our break in September, and everything that we typically do here caught up to us, so we'll have a little bit of a jump in time to hopefully get us back on track and dropping episodes every week like we want to do, and I am sure you want us to do as well. But with that, we'll go to your regularly scheduled DM-Nastics.
Well, I think that's smashing.
Welcome back to DM-Nastics, the gym for dungeon masters to work out their minds. I'm one of your hosts, DM Neil, aka Jote Maniac.
And it's me, your other host, DM Celeste, aka Sea Witch.
Oh, guess what though?
What?
Is we had to do a background check.
We did. Oh no.
That's the name of the exercise. That's what I'm naming it.
That's the joke.
Because one of the things I recently did was I was introducing D&D to some new players.
Yeah.
And one of the things I brought up that I've never said this at a table before, but like I brought up because I know in my heart of hearts, it's the thing I don't do very well. I said, hey, I know you've chosen a background. The background elements are a very, very nebulous version of a mechanical feature.
Yeah.
It's not a +1 to this. It's not a +2 to that. It gives you proficiencies, and those are really straightforward and easy to understand because you get your proficiency bonus or you use a set of tools.
Yeah, and you get equipment, which is very clear, like, but then there's that other thing. Yeah.
Or you gain a language where, hey, people are using this language. You understand it. But then you get folk hero, where it's like, people know you. Okie doke.
And then it's like, you could probably get some kind of benefit from that. And it's like, what does that mean?
So I brought up the idea to those players. I said, hey, if you feel like a scenario is happening and it ties to your background feature, say something.
Yeah.
Just bring it up. Say, hey, I think that this ties back to my background feature. Because I feel like those parts don't get played into very well, but there's a lot to be said about like they chose that. I mean, and did they maybe only choose it for the mechanical aspects? Yes, but there was also probably something else that drew them to it.
Yeah.
So then like, why not play into that? Make those features even more specific to the campaign, which you have a lot of really good examples often in pre-written material to say, hey, if you choose this background, here are direct connections.
Yeah, then you get this extra thing, or like this NPC will treat you differently. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I was running them through, starting to run them through the Shattered Obelisk, and it's basically, that was one of the prime examples of like, oh, hey, you're the noble, you just inherited a cottage in Phandalin, and you want to go check it out to see if it's something you'd like to keep or something you'd like to sell. It's like, not only do you have like an actual motive behind your background, like here is a direct connection to the to the campaign. Like the idea that like, just tying it in. So that said, we have an article that we can look at. This time from the Bell of Lost Souls, and it was brought to us by J.R. Zambrano, who we have definitely had some of their articles before. I don't always recognize the name, but when you have a picture, I recognize your face. So this one is called D&D, 13 side quests that will make any D&D background shine.
Cool.
We're not doing all 13.
No.
So it's your 13 standard. So is there any of the backgrounds that jump out to you? This is really funny. Scrolling through this, it is literally like you were opening my press assets folder. I can tell you. So the bottom one is the Siege of Dragonspire Castle. I recognize that one. The Kobold, and then that's the main one for the Bard when it came out. And then the top one, the Acolyte, is a cleric from 3rd edition.
Yeah, that there is. Yeah, I mean, starting off, there's an Acolyte background, so it looks like they did one section for each of the background options in the player's handbook, because there are 13 of those here. And the Acolyte one has some wild art. We were just talking about, it's a piece from 3.5. It's like a cleric standing over a dude on a table who's like got this ghost leg and chest, and we could like see their bones. This is gnarly. I feel like we should just cover Acolyte just for this art alone.
Then we shall. So the Acolytes can perform the religious ceremonies of their deities. You just would, one sentence gave you an absolute treasure trove.
Yep.
because I'm going to make an assumption and then you can correct me. I know how I do it, and I feel like we often are kindred spirits. I really don't mess with my pantheon unless I have a reason to mess with my pantheon.
Yeah.
I am not fleshing out extra gods. I am not giving everybody their pieces of their portfolios. I am not doing any of that until there is some engagement. Is it that I need it as an NPC that is doing some machinations in the background? Okay, so then I'll start to figure something out. Is it because a PC has chosen to be a cleric or even chosen this acolyte background, so now they're attached to someone?
Yeah.
Okay, then we can start to flesh that out, have that conversation. Who are you attached to?
Yeah.
Okay, so then what are those ceremonies that you do that you think ties back to your deity?
Yeah, first off, I love that this is you have to do it. It's making it a to-do because that's part of your job as an acolyte. And they give a D8 table of ceremony types you might be called on to have to perform as an acolyte. So they have weddings, coming of age, funerals, feast days, to settle a theological dispute, settle local disputes, bestow a blessing on someone, or some kind of esoteric rite. So I think this is super fun. And they mention, so part of this quest is figuring out components or gestures or acts you need to do to actually do this ceremony that you are called on to do, because as an acolyte, it is your job.
Yeah. Oh, and then going into each town, and part of it is them looking for it. There's a version of this where you're really gamifying it. And if you do gamify it enough, there needs to be carrot at the end of this process. You need to give them something for that.
Yeah, they get
what
paid,
if they check,
when they do this.
Or what if they check all 8 boxes and then they're allowed to be something more than an acolyte?
Right. Yeah. You can be a priest now officially, and then maybe a high priest. And then,
Yeah. Oh, and what if you gave them even the equivalent of the magic officiant? I mean, that's really funny in terms of this. What if you did give them the magic officiant? It's just a magic initiate, but they get to choose an extra spell.
Yeah.
But they're really good at marrying and burying because they've tried and true process.
Yeah, I love the idea that a group of adventurers, one of them's a cleric with the acolyte background, they roll up into town fully expecting to go on some other quest, and while they're checking in at the local tavern, someone's like, "Oh, hey, acolyte, we need someone to get married, so here you go," and then just pulls this cleric, and they're like, "Oh," and the group is like, "Okay." I think that would be super fun and hilarious.
Well, I mean, and the idea that they would be wearing something to denote their status as an acolyte, so that when they go into town, they can be easily identified. And be it as simple as a holy symbol, or even something more precise to say, no, they're absolutely an acolyte. I can ask them, because if it was a priest, would it look different? And you could request of them and maybe they'll say yes. But if you ask this acolyte, they got to do it. There's no getting out of it.
Amazing.
So the other one, and I brought it up, is the folk hero, because I feel like that one can be so much fun. I feel like that one speaks to a lot of, when they go to create characters. And I just feel like, though, it's one of the hardest, most ambiguous ones of
yes, for sure.
People know you. Oh, okay. But why? So folk heroes are people who come from humble beginnings to go on to do great things. Basically, the folk hero, they're heroes plucked up from among the common people and always find a place to hide, rest, or recuperate among them. In fact, people who recognize the character might call on them to give a speech.
Ooh.
So I like it. Or break new ground for a temple, or merchant consortium, guild hall. Basically, their rustic fame will surely bring out the crowds.
This is another one I really like, where if a party is going back to maybe visit the hometown of one of these folk heroes or whatever, and there's a new business or something that is hey, we want you to endorse our store opening.
Yeah.
Listen, we want you to be the face of our new product, right? Because you're the folk hero, right? And that would be so satisfying and weird for that player.
And they could do the ribbon cutting with whatever weapon they have.
Yeah, you're the person, we're going to point your portrait on the box and you're going to be there, cut the ribbon. Oh, that would be great.
And I think either establishing in the moment or establishing before then, what's the big thing that they did. And the longer the campaign goes on, the easier that becomes, because you can decide it's some of the things that they've already chosen to do, or the party has already completed, and it's now more of a known quantity. Like, they defeated this dragon over here, so then when they go to another town, does someone recognize them and say, hey, you're the person that defeated so-and-so, the dragon that was plaguing our nation for 100 years? Can you rouse the people? Which is also caution. Not everyone at your table is going to want to give a speech. So it could be the idea of a speech, the essence of a speech, the role to see how good your speech is. So is there another one that stands out?
Okay. Yeah, let's see. Okay, the soldier one has some pretty good stuff too. I feel like soldier is actually one of my favorite backgrounds, but you do sort of have to think about, like, why aren't you still attached to that life anymore, right? Because usually soldiers sign up for life, right?
So the Phandalin example is that they were working in Neverwinter as a guard. They were injured. They've been recuperating. They don't feel adequate to go back into the Neverwinter Guard, so they're going to go to Phandalin and basically take like a lesser post. And then obviously the character at the table was like, I took an arrow to the knee. But the idea that like there's like an inciting event to cause them to go and be somewhere else. I think you have to.
So on the soldier one, they said here, so soldiers were once members of standing army, whatever their army, they can still enjoy the benefits of their military rank. But of course, with those privileges come responsibilities. So whenever they're proposing for this quest, the soldier comes across another member of their former unit. So yeah, I love this, the I need your help kind of table. You know, you have this obligation to, your comrade in arms, sort of. The D6 table of what kind of help you might need. So they have healing, shelter, assistance paying off a debt, a family member rescued, getting in to plead their case before local authorities, or they've been condemned for a crime they didn't commit. These are cool. I like these because I feel like this is a kind of story we see a lot, I think, in media. Like this whole, like, we went through hell together and things haven't quite been the same. That kind of experience tying people together, it can get a little dark, definitely. Like warning people, especially if you're like treading towards themes like PTSD or whatever. But I really do like this, like having that bond to your past and having those obligations to other people. I think that's really neat.
So you used a keyword and you unlocked a memory. Well done. So one of the things to look at, and I think this would be a really good way to possibly restructure all of your backgrounds, is to go to the Star Wars the Edge of the Empire RPG, and they have a function called obligations. Yeah. Where basically like you're rolling to see which character you're tying back into. So it could be a really easy way, like if you don't, let's say you have more of a West March campaign, or you just kind of don't know what's next for your campaign, like looking into these obligation rules to basically kind of decide, okay, well, this next arc is going to be about our soldier background, and they have someone that needs assistance paying off a debt. It could be, and then as soon as you do that, let's look at what level they are. Is it 20, 30 gold? Is it that they sold their soul to a demon? Is right. It, so that debt, figure out how far that debt goes, but then, using those obligation functions to figure out what's next.
Yeah, it's they sort of have something similar in 5e. It's like the bonds system. Mm-hmm. So like being bonded to, your former comrades, or like maybe the soldier in need of help was actually like your captain or your commander, somebody who helped you survive, the war, and you wouldn't be here without them. Like you can really even intensify that kind of link and, build that story as much as your player is interested in.
Okay. Are you ready for the noble, who also has
Yeah. I like these ones with the tables.
Let's me too.
With the tables.
Yeah. Their noble duty, a D6, where basically they have wealth, they have power, they have privilege, but kind of looking back at the soldier, with those things often comes family responsibilities. These are the things that we, as the noble class, are, we have to do. This is
born to privilege, but also responsibility.
Yeah. So basically, they can be called to oversee noble activities, like judging a tournament, competing in the tournament, attending a landholders meeting and casting a vote,
Yeah.
hosting a lavish ball, being present at court for an important matter, or holding a feast for peasants and nobles alike.
I really like this. I really like especially the financial obligation aspect of it, because I feel like that plays really nicely into adventuring. Like maybe the fact that at some point you're going to get called on to have to host these balls or throw these feasts. Like maybe that's the reason you're adventuring, right? To like get enough cash to save face, keep your title by like maintaining these high level and expensive obligations.
I also the number 3, the attending something that requires a vote, I think is really interesting because of the level of urgency that you can decide that has. It could be very important. It could be, and the catalyst behind the vote could also be the thing where, hey, so-and-so has passed and we need to vote who's going to take their place.
Or if you're like, you could tie it even to the adventurers. Like I'm thinking right now, with Waterdeep and stuff, like, hey, if you're here and like you have, a house in Waterdeep and there's like a big dragon coming to attack, right? Like the city, and that it's tied to the adventure and stuff, but you're here in the city taking a vote on like how to allocate resources or, like what kind of battle preparations to make can tie directly into the drama of the main quest.
Yeah, and I love the nuance of putting 1 and 2 together where the noble is then called upon to judge a tournament, but someone else from the party decides to enter the tournament. Yeah. And then, kind of the political intrigue behind what does that process. Is it really straightforward? Is it, a lot of money in the back changing hands? And then you kind of, you have your player who's obviously not going to play into the political games. Or are they? Is your player getting far enough along and then they're willing to take a dive?
Or is this this is an unexpected thing, right? Because like if a family member, if it's your eldest brother who was, heir to the throne and like you never had to worry about it because your brother took care of all this stuff. You were the middle child, whatever. And then if they are killed or suddenly die or disappear and you have to step into that role, not only do you have the fun of having to deal with those obligations, but also probably trying to figure out what exactly happened.
The other one I think is, are they called upon to compete in a tournament? But are they allowed to proxy? So they are choosing the fighter,
a party member,
choosing someone else to go in their place.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. I think these would make some really fun quests.
So you said we're looking for the ones with the tables.
Yeah.
And one of the others that has a table.
We got the criminal.
Yes, I love having the criminal.
All about crimes. Yes. So, and this feature gives them access to a network of other criminals whom they can call in for aid, but contacts are a two-way street. Yes. When coming downstairs for breakfast, the criminal is greeted by their contact, who may or may not be in a disguise, and they are in need of help. I really like this obligation style of like coming up with these adventures. I think this is a lot of fun. There's the you gotta help me D4 table. So 1 is lying low and hiding out from the authorities or rival criminals. 2, pulling off a tricky job. 3, fencing an item. Or 4, doing some honest work for a while. I think all of these are super fun.
And all of these can allow for every PC at the table I could do some solo stuff with.
Yeah.
Now that said, the PC who often ends up being the one that is the easiest to do solo stuff with is whoever chose this background.
Yes.
Because they're probably going to do stuff that not everyone's going to be okay with. So then they're going to do it in the dark of night. Like fencing an item.
Yeah, but what's fun about this is like this is a whole other person who shows up exactly to where you are. So all of a sudden, it's not really... You can't really keep this stuff a secret if you have a criminal standing there being like, you have to hide me, man. Yeah. And like traveling around, with this other criminal. Yeah. I think this is so much fun for the rest of the party to be like, I'm sorry, what? And like learn about this.
Or having to pull off a job. Like basically like, no, I helped you do this and that. You have to help me do this now. Like there's no, John Wick. That's what makes you think of the coins. Yep.
Right. Or even the honest work for a while. Like if this criminal just shows up and is like, hi, I'm going to be honest now. I want to be an adventurer. You have to take me on in your party, like as an adventurer, right? For some limited amount of time. Like that is just got to be so fun.
Well, yeah, even having them work, a couple working in tandem, like they're laying low, appearing as someone else that has now joined the party. And then, that one character has to explain away why there's this rando who just joined the party and you don't want to kick them out.
I feel like actually this is a good strategy if you have maybe a player who's missing for a bit, or you have somebody else come in, like they could be that criminal contact and be like, nope, this is part of the deal. I'm in your party now. This other person has to go take care of something for me. This is a great way to do a guest spot or like cover, for someone who can't play. Or when you add a character to the party, you add another player to your table. This is how we are linked, right?
Oh yeah, tying the backgrounds together, or especially adding someone new, or a player choosing to switch characters and then adding that new character. Well, I think JR, once again, you have done a fantastic job.
Fantastic job, fun article.
So if you enjoyed this background check and you wanted to check us out and our background a little bit more, you can always head over to Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice. And since you're already there looking, you might as well leave us a rating and a review. What a great idea.
What a great idea. It helps out a lot. Yeah, and if you ever, just want to reach out, tell us about fun things you're doing with backgrounds in your game, you can always email us at dmnastics@gmail.com. Make sure to follow us on Twitter /X/that social media platform at DMS_block. Neil at Jotmaniac, and me at C. Konowich. And then for everything else in the network, you can check out blockpartypodcastnetwork.com.
And a huge thanks to the Bards over on Bombarded for intro and outro music. You can check out everything they're doing at bombardcast.com. But with that, rather than let these mental gains go to waste, let's head to taking your supplements. Taking your supplements! Celeste, I hear tell that you have an amazing book by a friend to us, a friend to all.
Yes, I got my copy of Flea Mortals in the mail. So full disclosure, I did get to do a little bit of writing on this book, but not much. Nice. So it's not really super self-promotion. I worked on some of the undead in here, but I am so excited. I also just backed the Kickstarter because it's awesome. Yep. So I have a couple copies coming. But Flea Mortals is a book from MCDM Productions. It is their big old book of monsters. So 5th edition monsters re-envision some of the core classic monsters in that style of MCDM, with a ton of cool changes. What I really like about this book is it is nothing like your normal monster manual or, even Tome of Beasts from Gold Press. They really did a lot of things to shake up the formula and provide you with some new tools or different tools that you normally wouldn't see in just kind of a compendium of monsters. So also, obviously, MCDM Productions, their books are just beautiful, glossy, quality. This feels just so nice. The pages to turn, they've got all their cool borders, that they usually do. Just incredible, as always. And what I love about here is, well, one, they have action-oriented creatures. Most of the creatures in this book are action-oriented, which is this really cool thing that MCDM does uniquely, that basically on these certain turns, actions trigger to make fights more dynamic and, make sure that monsters are doing more during fights. They also have minion rules in here, like retainers, lots of great encounter building advice. And something that's really unique is that they have decided to give all these boss monsters in the book actual names and stories. It's not just generic lore. So that way you can actually, if you want to pick up these villains and use them in your game, they're all ready to go. They already have stories. Or you can just choose to ignore that and use it just as a standard, monster. So there's some big choices in here that I think a lot of them are really fun and great for shaking up, what has become very formulaic, right? Running 5e monster fights. So just wanted to say again, well done to the MCDM team, and really recommend if you are looking for ways to spice up your encounters and think about monsters in different ways. Highly recommend Fleet Mortals from MCDM.
Agreed. We've had James on before, and he talked about the bread battle and the idea, the essence of that, of figuring out a way to make the story more compelling around the monster, not just a bag of hit points, but that carries out through the whole book. So if you want to, like you said, I always do it because my players have played for so long, just not even just so long, but so long with me as well as their dungeon master, that I often am always on the hunt for something that is at least a little bit different to hopefully surprise them.
Yes.
And have something happen.
I think they will definitely be surprised if you face an orc from this book. Nothing like a standard orc, from 5e.
But yeah, the minion rules and seeing how to implement those are also a really, really big benefit of that book.
Oh, also the companion, like the creature companion rules they have in here. Like, this is a whole mechanical subsystem on its own in this book that works with all of this. So you're really getting a lot more than just a book of monsters here. You are getting all kinds of new mechanics.
So there'll be a link to where you can find your own copy of Flea Mortals.
But with that, we will turn out the lights and head out of the gym.
But before we go, we want to implore you, dear listener, go find us. Not at our houses, though, but online, preferably only that way. Go to the Twitter, go to Discord, anywhere else you can find us, and help and join in these amazing conversations and exercises being had.
To do that, head over to dungeonmasterblock.freeforums.net and try some DM-Nastics so your players don't ask, do you even live?